Long before the Olympic medals, before the world titles, before millions of people recognized their names, there were simply two young skaters attempting to determine whether a partnership might function. When Madison, Chock, and Evan Bates first stepped onto the ice together in 2011, nothing about their future was assured. In fact, partnerships in ice dance seldom come with certainty. Unlike individual sports, ice dance demands something far more intricate than talent alone. Two athletes must move as though they share the same instincts. Every edge, every step sequence, every lift requires flawless timing. One slight hesitation, one miscommunication, and the illusion of unity vanishes instantly. For Chock and Bates, the early days of their partnership were about discovering whether that connection could exist. Training sessions stretched for hours inside frigid Michigan rinks. Music echoed across the vacant ice while they repeated the same movements again and again. Coaches observed carefully, searching for signs that the two skaters could develop the rare chemistry that exceptional ice dance teams require. At first, the progress was gradual, competition by competition. They began appearing on international podiums. Their programs started to stand out for their dramatic storytelling and distinctive choreography. While many teams concentrated purely on technical precision, Chock and Bates brought something theatrical to the ice. Their performances felt like brief films unfolding in motion. Judges began to take notice. Fans began to remember their names. Within a few seasons, the partnership that once felt uncertain had become one of the most thrilling teams in American figure skating. But success in skating rarely arrives without obstacles. Behind every graceful performance is an exhausting schedule that few people ever witness. Early mornings, endless conditioning sessions, and constant travel define the lives of elite athletes. Competitions take place in different countries, sometimes only days apart. And inside that demanding world, partnerships are often fragile. Many ice dance teams separate after only a few seasons. But something about Chock and Bates was different. Year after year, they remained together. Their programs grew stronger. Their timing improved. Their confidence expanded. Gradually, they began ascending toward the highest levels of international skating. By the time the Olympic Games appeared on the horizon, it seemed evident that their partnership had become something uncommon in the sport. But Olympic dreams carry enormous pressure, and when the moment finally arrived, something occurred that nearly altered the entire course of their story. A mistake lasting only seconds, one fall on Olympic ice, and suddenly everything they had spent years constructing seemed in danger of collapsing. By the time the 2018 Winter Olympics arrived in Pyeongchang, the partnership between Madison, Chock, and Evan Bates had already matured into something formidable. Years of training had transformed them from a promising team into legitimate Olympic contenders. Their style, dramatic, expressive, and technically precise, had begun to distinguish them from many of their rivals. Fans admired the storytelling in their programs, while judges increasingly rewarded their technical advancement. Everything about their trajectory suggested they were entering the prime of their competitive careers. The Olympic Games represented the moment where all of that effort would finally be tested. For figure skaters, the Olympics are unlike any other competition. The pressure is heavier, the audience is global. Every detail of a performance carries the weight of years of sacrifice. When Chock and Bates stepped onto the Olympic ice for their free dance, the atmosphere inside the arena felt almost electric. The program began beautifully. Their opening steps were controlled and fluid. The choreography unfolded smoothly. Every movement timed to the music with remarkable precision. Lift after lift landed cleanly. And for much of the routine, it appeared as though everything was unfolding exactly as they had envisioned during years of preparation. Then, in a moment that lasted only seconds, something went wrong. During a sequence near the middle of the routine, their skates clipped together. It was a minor miscalculation, almost invisible to anyone who didn't grasp the complexity of ice dance footwork. But the effect was immediate. Both skaters lost balance. And suddenly, right in the middle of the Olympic program they had spent years preparing for, they fell. The arena gasped. In Olympic sport, there are moments that feel suspended in time, when an entire dream can shift in an instant. This was one of those moments. But what happened next revealed something significant about the partnership between them. They didn't stop. They got back up, and they finished the program. Every step after the fall required intense concentration. The choreography continued. The lifts continued. The performance continued. Even as the reality of the mistake lingered in the background, when the music finally ended, the applause that followed carried a different tone. It was admiration, but also sympathy. Both skaters understood the truth. A medal that once seemed attainable had slipped away. For many teams, a moment like that becomes the breaking point of a partnership. But for Chock and Bates, the fall in Pyeongchang became something else entirely. It became the beginning of a promise that they would return stronger, more experienced, and determined to reach the Olympic moment that had eluded them. And in the years that followed, their story would take an unexpected turn, one that would transform their partnership, not only on the ice, but in their personal lives as well. In the years that followed the Olympic setback in Pyeongchang, something unexpected began to unfold in the partnership between Madison Chock and Evan Bates. From the outside, their careers continued progressing as usual. They returned to international competitions. They refined their programs. They kept climbing the rankings in the intensely competitive world of ice dance. But inside the quiet routines of training, something deeper was beginning to shift. For years, Chock and Bates had been partners in the strictest professional sense of the word. Their connection on the ice had always been strong, built on trust and long hours of shared effort. But over time, that connection slowly started to evolve. Training sessions stretched late into the evening. Extended conversations followed practices. Flights to competitions turned into hours spent discussing life beyond skating. Somewhere along the way, the partnership that had started purely as a professional collaboration began to feel more personal. Eventually, the two skaters recognized something neither of them had anticipated when their partnership first began in 2011. They had fallen in love. For many ice dance teams, a romantic relationship can complicate matters. The pressures of elite sport are already intense, and blending personal emotions with competitive expectations can sometimes create instability. But for Chock and Bates, the opposite seemed to occur. Their connection only deepened on the ice. Their performances began to carry a level of authenticity that audiences could sense immediately. Their movements looked more natural, their storytelling more convincing. The chemistry between them was no longer something that had to be choreographed. It was genuine. Fans noticed the difference. Judges noticed it too. Year after year, the team continued improving. Their programs became more bold, blending athletic precision with dramatic presentation. Then came the milestones that confirmed their place among the elite. World championship podiums, major international victories, and eventually something even more remarkable: 3 consecutive world titles. By the early 2020s, Chock and Bates were no longer simply one of many capable teams in the sport. They had become one of the defining ice dance partnerships of their generation. During this period, their personal story continued evolving as well. In 2022, they announced their engagement. 2 years later, in 2024, they were married. After more than a decade skating side by side, their partnership had grown into something far beyond sport. They were not just teammates, they were husband and wife. And by the time the Olympic Games in Milan approached, the narrative surrounding them felt almost cinematic. A couple who had spent 15 years pursuing the same dream together, one final Olympic moment, one final opportunity to deliver the performance they had spent a lifetime preparing for. By the time the Olympic Games arrived in Milan, the story of Madison Chock and Evan Bates had already spanned more than 15 years. 15 years of early mornings at the rink. 15 years of competitions across different continents. 15 years of learning how to move together with a level of precision that only the finest ice dance teams in the world ever accomplish. And now the moment they had been pursuing for most of their careers had finally arrived: the Olympic Games. For many athletes, the Olympics represent the ultimate test. It is the stage where years of preparation must converge in just a few minutes on the ice. When Chock and Bates stepped onto the rink in Milan for their free dance, the atmosphere inside the arena was intense. Fans knew their history. Commentators spoke about their longevity. Judges understood what this performance represented for a team that had spent more than a decade pursuing Olympic glory. From the first notes of the music, something about the routine felt exceptional. Their movements were sharp and controlled. The choreography flowed effortlessly from one element to the next. Every lift landed smoothly. Every step sequence matched perfectly. For those watching closely, it resembled the kind of performance athletes dream about, the skate of a lifetime. When the music ended, the arena erupted into applause. For a moment, everything felt possible. After years of setbacks, including the fall that had haunted them in the 2018 Olympics, this routine seemed to represent redemption. They had delivered the performance they had always believed they were capable of. But Olympic competitions are never decided by the applause of the crowd. They are decided by the numbers that appear on the scoreboard. When the final scores were revealed, the result was clear: silver medal. An extraordinary accomplishment by any measure. An Olympic medal is something most athletes never experience. But inside that moment, the emotions were complicated because the performance they had just delivered felt worthy of gold. The margin separating them from first place was narrow. Narrow enough that discussions quickly began among fans and analysts about the judging breakdown. Some observers believed the scoring reflected the competition accurately. Others felt that the difference between the two teams did not fully capture what they had witnessed on the ice. Debates spread across social media, skating forums, and television analysis. But through all of it, Chock and Bates responded with remarkable composure. They did not protest. They did not criticize the judges. Instead, they spoke about the journey. about the partnership that had endured 15 years, about the pride they felt in the performance they had just delivered. Shortly after the Olympics, another competition appeared on the calendar, the World Championships in Prague. As reigning world champions, Chock and Bates were expected to compete, expected to defend their title. But when the official entry list for the event was quietly updated, something unexpected appeared. Their names were gone. No dramatic announcement, no lengthy explanation, just a simple decision. Later, when asked about it, Bates offered a sentence that seemed to encapsulate everything they had experienced in Milan. "We left it all on the ice." After 15 years together, it was not a moment of defeat that defined their story. It was the partnership itself. Two athletes who had turned a risky collaboration into one of the most enduring and remarkable relationships the sport had ever witnessed. And sometimes in sport, as in life, the most meaningful victories are not measured only in gold medals.